Home, presented by RE/MAX Diamond Realty.
All right, guys. Now, normally we try and keep this segment as positive as possible, but today we are going to talk about maybe something where the glass is like half empty. We're going to be pessimistic because life is not always fair. People go to jail, people get taken advantage of, people go bankrupt, people even die. That's a way of life. So, with that wonderful intro, we have Liz here from RE/MAX Diamond Realty. And Liz, I want to talk about foreclosure because that is something that's certainly kind of like a very unfortunate topic, but maybe if bad things happen to good people and, property winds up going into foreclosure for whatever reason, is there a way where, concerned family members, friends, spouses, can they work on their behalf and get the property back?
Well, I want to reach out and let people know it's a fact of life. Sometimes you have financial difficulties and you're behind on your payments. But, I feel like as a realtor, my job is to help families, and we'd like to tell them that if you're going through the foreclosure process or you get a notice from the bank, sometimes rather than avoiding it or waiting, reach out and call someone. I mean, you can call us so we could give you some guidelines, but if it's a foreclosure process, I always ask when we're listing property, are you up to date with your payments? Because if you're not, then pricing the property at a price that would move it and to avoid the foreclosure process. So we've had people that come to us that are on the verge of the foreclosure, and then we put the property on the market. Sometimes the market value could be at a certain value, but if you need to move it fairly quickly, then we may drop the price just a little, just so that we could move the property and get it sold. And the banks, we normally communicate with the banks, of course, and let them know, hey, we've got it on the market, we're listing it. I also ask the owners, what is your mortgage balance? So that at least hopefully my objective is to have them walk away with some monies in their pocket rather than losing the property. But that will only work to the degree of what is their mortgage balance, because some people have refinanced and they've hit sometimes over the market value, because remember, the market changes.
They're living beyond their means.
You're right. Or sometimes the market is at this price and then the values will go up over time. But if they keep borrowing up to a certain amount and refinancing the property, sometimes the refinanced amount or the mortgage balance is up here and the market value is down here.
And that is exactly the reason why in 2008 we had this national financial crisis, because subprime housing loans, everything went haywire.
Right.
But just to make sure, so people watching us understand, foreclosure, you mentioned banks. Foreclosure is an activity that the bank executes, right? When you default on your payments. It's not a judge.
If you're late on your payments, the bank will give you notice. You're 1 month late. If you're 2 months late, you're 3 months late. I would recommend that people, if you're in a financial crisis, you might want to call the bank and just say, hey, I'm having difficulties. And ask for their, whether they could do something to either reduce the payment or put a hold on the payment. Of course, every bank is different. They have different guidelines. I can't say what they can do, but at least reaching out to them. And then if at a point they're unable to continue making payment, maybe at that point they can call a realtor and say, hey, I need to sell the home. And of course, our obligation would be try to make sure that hopefully they walk away with some monies in their pocket versus walking away with nothing. But at the same breath, I want to say, if it's a dire straits and you've been so late that already it's at the attorneys, then at that point it's probably best to just cut your losses and walk away.
Okay, but what if I'm part of, like, say, myself and my classmates or my coworkers or my cousins or something like that? We know someone who's found themselves on really unfortunate times, and we want to actually say, that's
we can help. Yes,
that's our property. It might be like like
a family. Yes,
yeah.
I was just talking to some friends, and they were telling me that they found out that a relative was in the verge of foreclosure, and they foreclosed on it, and the mortgage balance was so small that a family member could have helped them. So reach out to your family members and say, hey, do you either want to buy the property so it stays within the family, or can you help me pay for my arrears, and then I could get caught up.
Okay, now I'm a business person, right?
Yes.
I'm also, I would like to think, like a good-natured human being, and I want to help my fellow man. So if something happens to one of my cousins, I'll say, hey, I can help you. I want to keep the property in our family and everything. But I'm also thinking, okay.
You want to buy it.
No, I'm also thinking, okay, if this person defaulted on their payments, is there the chance that if I help out, you know, I may wind up like losing out myself again? So is this arrangement that I make, is it a gentleman's agreement between two people, or do I have to go through an attorney or a bank?
Well, it's critical that you know all the facts. So
Right.
as an agent, I would ask all the different questions. What's the balance? So it probably would be helpful if you contacted a realtor and we could assist in the process, or go to the bank directly with the owner of the property to find out what is the true picture, so that you can make a decision whether to assist them or not, or to loan them some money to help them in the process.
Are banks normally amenable to that kind of thing?
I mean, banks want their money, bottom line.
Right, okay, right.
And they're willing to sit and listen and at least see. I mean, if you're willing to help them and you're going to get caught up with the mortgage, hey, they want their monies. They'll sit with you to try and figure out how you're going to make that work.
Because their businesses too, and that's a loss on their books.
Yes, they don't want to lose. Now, if they're truly unable to continue payment, then the best thing may be to sell the property and to contact a realtor and say, hey, I can't keep up with it. But at the same time, rather than going to the realtor, contact your family and friends and say, hey, I can't make it anymore. Do you want to buy my property? And then, you know, make whatever arrangements so they buy it. But unsuspecting, if you wanted to buy one, I would say sit with them at the bank to know what is the balance, what are the fees associated with taking it over,
right.
or to refinance it so that you purchase it.
But with this deal, let's say, like for lack of a better term, this isn't something that I have to set up with, like, I have to go through a judge or come up like with the mechanics
you can
of it.
work it out with the owner, as long as there isn't a judgment, as long as it isn't in the attorney's hands. And that's the point I'm making to the people out there, is don't wait for that. Don't wait for it to get to the attorney's hands, because once it gets to the attorney's hands, then everything has to be dealt with the attorney. The banks will just back off and say, hey, we can't touch it at this point.
Let's help our neighbor out when they're going through tough times. That's the Chamorro way.
Yes, yes, it is the Chamorro way. And the Chamorro way is to also keep property within the family.
Right.
Provided it works.
Well, this